Last week, earlier in the week, I was asked a question by a lady. Actually, it was about 10 questions. Her reasoning was a dear friend asked her to ask me some questions. Apparently, he couldn't ask himself. Do I believe that is the case? No, I don't. But there's only one question and one answer that wipes out everything she said. She tried to make out Western Australia didn't join Federation at the same time as everybody else, but they did. As I've explained before, and it's evidenced in the office of the Church of England, St George's Terrace, Perth, that Western Australia by proclamation was ordered into Federation by Queen Victoria because there had to be 6 states in relation to what was going on to create the first federal parliament once the 6 states had an election to elect their parliaments according to the state constitutions. Now, when you listen to this person and look at what they said, she even, her friend, even decided that you couldn't, Western Australia couldn't go in after Federation without asking permission from the other states. The person who wrote that is a noodle brain, and I asked him, "You don't think what you're saying is true? I don't believe either of you, either the woman who rung me or good friend, because what you asked is nonsensical and fits in line with some of the peanuts that are in this country." So the next question that I want to talk about is, I'll answer it fully first. Western Australia went in just before Federation, and that's evidenced by the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK in the form of the annotated Constitution, which is the Hansard of our Constitution. And Anne Toomey seems to think that book and the Green Book are the same. Well, Anne Toomey got it wrong as usual, like a lot of other things that I've seen come out of her things. The reason I keep at her, because she professes to be a professor, an expert in the Constitution, and is absolutely not, and refuses to answer questions or look at what people say, because we have a Constitution. We have a Constitution that is totally and utterly interpreted for our benefit. And the Constitutional Act 1900 UK, this one, as proclaimed and gazetted, is an enabling act. It enables us to have a constitution, which leads to the second question. I was told that the people select the candidates. Well, I've read the whole of Chapter 1 and part of Chapter 2 to see if there's anything in there that would lead him to believe that. So what I could get is a misinterpretation of this section. The qualification of electors for senators shall be in each state that which is prescribed by this Constitution or by the Parliament, as the qualification for electors of members of the House of Representatives, but in the choosing of senators, each elector shall vote only once. So that's a little confusing, but at the end of the day, you only get to vote for one candidate once. Now, that's for the Senate. Now, Section 30. Until the Parliament otherwise provides, and we've never had a lawful Parliament, so that doesn't even come into it, the qualification of electors of members of the House of Representatives shall be in each state that which is prescribed by the law of the state as the qualification of electors of the more numerous House of Parliaments of the state. But in the choosing of members, each elector shall vote only once. One for one person. Now, when you take the time to read this, as I've stated before, the governor of the states selects a pool of people, not the Parliament. And can you change that? No. If you look at that, it seems to say the Parliament can change it, but it does not. When you read Chapter 1 in this, and in the annotated one is better because it explains it a little clearly. It explains that the state constitutions continue, subject to the Commonwealth one. How far are they subject? Go to HCA 39 of 1915 at paragraph 148. Sir Samuel Griffiths, one of the people who constructed or helped construct the Constitution and its interpretation, said, here you find 106 binds the state constitutions and all laws made pursuant to it to the overriding authority of the Commonwealth Constitution. Clear? Yes. So where it doesn't contravene the Commonwealth Constitution, that is law. Can it be changed? No, it's a letters patent. You can't touch it. Why? Because the letters patent for the office of governor, which I've shown you before, clearly states that only be changed by the monarch. The highest authority in any state is the governor, above the parliament. So how come these nice crooked people that call themselves our representatives have changed it? Under what authority? They don't have any. Their change is fraud. The governor still must be lawfully appointed under the letters patent. I'm going to come back to that little issue because people seem to think that Bob Hawke could issue a letters patent. No. Anyone else can? No. It's all lies. All socialist, communist lies. Just like you, Albanese, you're a liar and a fraud. Now, let's get back to what I was saying. Along with the letters patent for the office of governor, the state constitution which was made letters patent, the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK was made letters patent, all on the 29th of October 1900, except for the office of governor. That was already there as a letters patent to become active on the 1st of January 1901. How do you know that? It's on the letters patent. It's on the document. Now, what's added to that by the Constitution, both the Act and the Constitution derived from it, is the fact that there is instructions from Queen Victoria in relation to the governor, what things he carries out. Now, if you refer to how I've referenced it, which is, you'll find the reference in Chapter 1. Chapter 1 lists all the states and their constitutions, how they apply. Read it. It's a long chapter. It's about 35-40 pages. Doesn't take more than a few hours to read it. I read it on Friday night so I could answer this gentleman. I'm not going to put his name up here, nor the other lady, because they're entitled to privacy. They're entitled to ask questions, and I always answer their questions where possible. What that means is we have a state constitution in Western Australia. We have a letters patent putting in place office of governor. We have advice and instructions to our governor, another imperial act. We have residual powers, which is Magna Carta, 1688 Bill of Rights, habeas corpus, the settlement, and the King James Bible. Can't be changed. They're laws, they're not statutes, and no, you can't touch them, man. To me, that's another one of the yarns you're telling on one of your videos. You can't change them. The Parliament has no authority to change it. You think the Statute of Westminster being added in 1942 somehow gave the authority to take out the Colonial Laws Validity Act, and you've been saying that, you people. Not necessarily Anne Toomey, she's just been referring to the fact that it doesn't exist. Another lie. We are a self-governing colony under the provisions of Clause 8. So it's clear, I'll read that to you because too many people are saying, there's only one clause, the ninth one. No, well, after the passing of this Act, the Colonial Boundaries Act 1895 shall not apply to any colony which becomes a state of the Commonwealth, but the Commonwealth shall be taken to be a self-governing colony for the purpose of that Act. We're a self-governing colony. Why? Because the Constitution Act only gives us permission to do it. Who told you you could change it to anything else? Look at that, the Statute of Westminster. No, it didn't. As I said before, John Curtin, in his less than 12 months reign as so-called Prime Minister, the President of the Parliament, nothing more, with absolutely no authority whatsoever, none whatsoever. decided that he could have the Statute of Westminster Adoption Act, and he didn't want to adopt the whole act, only about 3 or 4 sections, ones that were convenient for him and the Labor Party. And when did he do it? Right smack in the middle of the war, when there was nobody to put it to, so they didn't bother, they just did it. But the big mistake he made, because he was a moron, I don't care, you don't speak bad of the dead, he probably died because of what he said, but anyway, who cares? He died. The fact is, he backdated it to 1931, that was the end of it, it's gone. But it interfered with the Commonwealth Constitution, it's invalid. You can't pass any act. And the fact that the Commonwealth of Australia took part in the putting together of the Statute of Westminster, they knew. So we can only say they committed blatant treason on the people of this country for the benefit of the political parties. Now, Ann Toomey says they don't need a referendum for the Australia Act. Well, Ann Toomey, that's a lie. A filthy lie. Because the Australia Act purports to change part of the Queensland Constitution and part of the Western Australian Constitution. And in line with Australia being an independent sovereign nation. We're a self-governing colony of England, you clowns. We've never been an independent sovereign nation, you clowns. If you say that, you're an idiot. We need to get the proper independence in such as Gerard Rennick. No. Sorry, I'm going to talk about that in a tick. No. You can't. Because we all have to vote because your no vote will go to Labor. No, that's the corrupt system. I will answer you in a minute. Now, getting back to what I said. You want to see who selects the members of Parliament that you've got to vote for once. Go look up, and you'll have to go to your own state because each state's constitution is so slightly different, fits with the area of the state. But ours states clearly, in letters patent for the office of governor, advice and instructions to our governor, the governor selects the candidates into a pool and we vote for one person once, which is what I say. And how do you get to that? You go to chapter 1, read it all, and then go looking for those acts. So each state has them. Now, is that letters patent for the office of governor in our constitution? Yes. It's referred to in the annotated constitution under section 72. It says, the Governor-General shall select all judges for the Federal Court and High Court. And then it goes on about how they're selected. They must swear the oath contained in the Constitution. Not a problem. Like section 42 says, every senator and every member of the House of Representatives shall, before taking their seat, swear the oath of allegiance contained in the Constitution. How come all these clowns are swearing on the Quran? Now, I saw what you put out, Albanese. It's not a hate speech that I'm talking. Nothing to do with them. I've got friends come from Cocos Keeling Island. They are both Muslim and they speak Indonesian. So we find it easy for my wife. She's got somebody who speaks fluent Indonesian and she speaks to them. The people, so what if they're Muslim? They're not radicals. They don't believe in the garbage. Who cares? We accept them for who they are, including their religion, but you don't. You want to use it against us. You want to have traitors sitting in our parliament, because if you don't swear the oath contained in the Constitution, you are not a senator. You're not a member of the House of Parliament. You're nothing. And if you're a political party and you don't swear that oath, you're committing blatant treason. But all of you are anyway. So let's get back to the validity of the letters patent for the office of governor. After it says the Governor-General shall select all judges for the Federal Court and the High Court, it says, further on in the text, an annotated one, because that's interpretation by the framers, so it's right, correct. And you can't deny that and you can't dispel it. So, and to me, if you try, I'll get somebody to laugh you to scorn because that's what you deserve. Now, it says this section does not of necessity refer to the states because each state has its own constitution. It has its own letters patent for the office of governor. It's there, clear. Not in those exact words, but it does state that, and that's exactly what you got. It's there. Why? Because it is. It's fact. And I referred you already to what Albanese said in relation to hate speech. I've got the Australia Act here. I've got the letters patent, Statute of Westminster. It's a lot, isn't it? It's all 12 sections out of about 50. The Acts of the Parliament of the Commonwealth and of the United Kingdom respectively as follows. It's all nonsense. You can't. Australia Act 1986, Christmas Island Act, none of those acts ever went to the people. So if you increase or decrease the area of the Commonwealth, you've got to come to us. And this, if you get this book, this is a nice book that's put out by the government. It actually reveals a lot of things. It reveals how Bob Hawke is the Queen of Australia. He got to sign off on the letters patent for the office of Governor General when it was already under letters patent from Queen Victoria. Was that an act of yes? 1920. George V came to Australia and issued a letters patent and gazetted it in a gazette in this country, and I've had it and held it up before for people to see, and it clearly states that he upholds all of the letters patents of Queen Victoria and cemented them back in place. 2008, Queen Elizabeth said in the Australian Parliament, I uphold all of my great-grandmother's letters patent. Her great-grandmother was Queen Victoria, in case you haven't worked it out. So they all stand. So even after the 1999 referendum, the Treaty of Versailles, and all those lies that you say you had the right to thing, the letters patent stand. It wouldn't matter what the federal parliament does because they've never been lawful. Now let's look at the first attempt, or one of the biggest attempts the Labor Party made to destroy this country. They signed the Treaty of Versailles. Who told them they could? If what you did was lawful, how come when Sir Edmund Barton, the person who was the first Prime Minister of this country, the first President of the Parliament, when he went before the Parliament of the Commonwealth, or whatever they call it, because it wasn't lawful, it didn't matter. When he went before them in 1919 at Christmas, just before Christmas, he gave them a large number of questions to answer in where he got the authority to be involved with the Treaty of Versailles, to the joining of the League of Nations and signing outside agreements. And mysteriously, in a little town between Leura in New South Wales and Lithgow, on the Great Western Highway, there's a little town with a huge big hotel in it. And somebody slipped him a Mickey Finn, which is a drugged drink, with arsenic in it, and he died. And of course, no one would suspect it was Billy Hughes. Yeah, like fun they didn't, and they still do. Why hasn't that been investigated? That was one of the first, there was two, the first crime and treachery and terrorist act against a politician in this country. Was it politically motivated? Absolutely, because if it wasn't, why didn't they go back to the Parliament in January after he died and answer those questions? They were before the Parliament, they were never answered. He put them there. They had to be answered. Why weren't they answered? Because the perpetrators, I believe, were sitting in the Parliament laughing, thinking, oh, we got rid of this clown. No, you didn't. Now, in relation to Islam and Islamophobia, what about communist phobia that you got? socialist phobia that you idiots in the Labor Party and dictatorial phobia that you've all got over the people of this country. You've got plenty. International Day to Combat Islamophobia. On the International Day, Australia stands firm against any expression or act of hatred or hostility towards the Muslim community. As I said, we don't have any. We don't have any. You would love to be able to do that. But Anthony Albanese, what about your hatred of the Australian people and the Australian way of life? Do you have it? Oh, do you ever? You give hate speeches all the time. You now are trying to send our young men to Ukraine. Why? It is not our war. We are not committed to it. We did not give you permission to do it, so you're not representing us. Where are you? You're a liar and a fraud. A filthy liar and a fraud. You want to put our soldiers in danger in Ukraine to uphold a despot. I'm nothing against the Ukrainian people, don't worry, and this is not a hate speech against them. I've looked at them, I've read their history, and what did you say? Look at that. You attack Putin as some dictatorial person, and you're talking about the Republic or whatever of Ukraine. You're an outright liar. A filthy, lying, communist pig of a person. You've gone into Parliament, you've feathered your own nest, and you are what Putin is. Putin follows what he believes and what his people want. He got voted back in. According to you, that's how you do things. According to me, I don't know if it was a proper election or what it was, but at least he allows it. Zelensky doesn't. Why are you backing him? Because you're trying to set up another communist regime there, dictatorial regime, which you're trying to set up in this country. You're a backstabbing, lying piece of garbage. You want to take me to court? I can prove it. I have the evidence. You can't see that people gather evidence in this country and supply it to central points. You don't like me? Too bad. I don't like you. So what? I don't hate you. Nothing comes out of my mouth in relation to hatred in the way of speeches. You and the Greens, those clowns, and this is not a hatred speech, this is against what they believe. They believe that they can abort babies. They're going to try and force people, if they get into power at a federal level, force churches and that who don't believe in abortion to follow their bent and twisted murderous thoughts. But then the politicians have done that since they introduced this jab. How many people died from it? Every single one. That is a murder. I don't care what you think. You put forward an experimental drug. Our law says you can't do it. That's an act of terrorism. And you murdered all those people. And that includes Christopher John Dawkins, the so-called Governor of Western Australia. You, along with Roger Cook, are murderers. Along with McGowan are murderers. Why? Because you pushed this. Now some idiot is pushing it back on the media again. You should have the flu jab, and in it is what? The same garbage, or some of it, that's in these vaccines. Why are you pushing it? Because you're spineless, gutless murderers. Why don't you go randomly, we'll go and select the injections, come and see me, I know how to give you an injection, I'll inject you. Would you do that? No, because you don't trust me. But believe me, I wouldn't do it wrong. And I wouldn't tell lies about it. I'd do exactly what I'm saying. I would inject it into you. Because I want to see how your body stands up to the crap that you're putting in other people's bodies. And it doesn't matter to me or anybody else in this country if you peanuts die. It does from one point of view, but not from the point of view you have murdered that many people, committed bodily harm on them for the results of what happened. You're denying it. Are you going to give us an inquiry? No. Was the election lawful? No. And that's what I'm getting to now. your lovely little election in Western Australia. You didn't have one lawful candidate. I don't care what Shane Love says. He's following his National Party rhetoric and the rest of the junk. I've spoken to him, and he thinks that a Minister of a Parliament can just sign an order and it becomes an executive order and you can fill us up with fluoride. I put it to him with a group of people. He denied it, said, no, they can do what they like. You're a liar, Shane, in relation to that. Why would anyone vote for you? So Libby Mattam, she threw in the towel before any of the counting had finished. Roger Cook claimed victory before the election had finished, because he knew there wasn't enough papers. So what did I do? One thing, and I want people to comprehend this. You cannot vote for independents, because the independents go into Parliament and do not take the oath contained in the Constitution. If they do, they're still wrong. They're still wrong. Because they're put there in a voting system which is corrupt from one end to the other. You can't say it's any other way, because that's exactly what it is. It's corrupt from one end to the other. And you want people to vote for independence. I've looked at some of the candidates. I think they're good. The things they say are good. But their problem is they must be from a pool of people. They must represent the whole state. Do they have to? Yes. I just read it out of the Constitution Act. And that's the imperial one, can't be touched or changed. Can't. And our Constitution must comply with it. Can't do that either. So even if you do go through the voting system and get voted in, if you don't swear the oath in the Constitution, you are not an officer of the Crown, you can't sit in our Parliament. You can't. If you do, you're committing treason. To get voted in that way, that's treason as well. Was the system you got now approved by us? No. State Electoral Commission, what a load of crap. The governor of the state, a lawful one, has to set up the system. He prorogues the Parliament. What does prorogue mean? Dissolves. Dissolves the existing Parliament. He issues the writs for the election. Why do we have to employ somebody else? Why doesn't he, if he's lawful, or her, if she's lawful, if that's the way it goes, why don't they run the polling booth? Why is it run by a government that doesn't even exist in law anymore? It's prorogued, it's gone, finished. Oh no, we've got a caretaker mode. No, you don't. The public service is a caretaker government under the direct control of the governor, according to our Constitution. Read it and weep. You're committing blatant treason. Can you swear the oath? Doesn't make you lawful. You took the death penalty out of our laws. Fine, you did it. Is it in there? Yes. Why? How is it in there? Halsey's Laws of England, Volume 2. It's one of the residual acts that stays there. You can't take it out until you remove the Commonwealth Constitution, which you've tried. Collapse all current and unlawful organisations, start again. Yeah, Simon Parkes, you're correct. Get rid of the whole lot. Have a lawful election for the state parliaments, each one. And here's the clanger for you. You can vote for one person once for the Senate. In the annotated Constitution, it explains clearly why the 6 people that originally were the senators, 3 covered the full 6-year period. 3 covered 3 years where you need a new election to elect half of the Senate for the next 6 years. Clearly explained, you have 6. You take out 3, they only govern in their capacity in that area of governance for 3 years. The remaining 3 cover the 6 years. So halfway through the 6-year period, you've got to elect another Senate, which will only be 3 people, and they'll overlap to the next one. So you've got an overlapping 3 people from each 6-year session. Sit down and work it out. It's clear in there. Hopefully I've explained it clear enough, but the whole 6 senators do not stay together for 6 years. Half of them stay together for 3 years and then get re-elected again to complete it. So there's an ever-changing Senate. Is that in there? Yes, it is. Read the first chapter. See, I tell people, when you get the red book or the other one, we can give you either because we got it on the computer. We can print out the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK, which is the Enabling Act. We can print it out and send it to you or email it to you, whatever. And in there, if you read the first 3 chapters and the 9 clauses, that'll give you a reasonable understanding of the Constitution. But they don't want you to know that. You've got to go to university and you've got to study law to learn the Constitution. No, that's the last place you want to be. Because it's run and controlled by idiots and political parties whose whole agenda is to bend and twist our law and change us into something we're not. And when you got half the people in the Parliament that are communists and socialists and just plain green idiots, the Greens have known and done a deal ages ago that the Chinese are bringing nuclear waste in through the Darwin Harbour. They have. I've known about it all the time. And the Greens won't do anything about it because how much kickbacks are you getting, you Greens? How much kickbacks are you getting for allowing them to bring all this waste uranium back into our country? Why is it coming here? You say we should bring it in because we're selling it? Well, why aren't we sending all the used tyres back to all the countries that produce them? That's a waste product. We bought them. They're buying our uranium. Are they getting it pretty well for free? You're stealing from this country left, right and centre. We had cars run on gas. You want clean air, but you don't want it. Because if you did, you'd be running gas in the meantime. Is green energy running electric cars? Only a raving lunatic would even consider trying to convince the public you can run a car on electricity and it's clean. You can plug it in. Cost money and gas and diesel and whatever else to generate electricity to charge the batteries up in it. Then you get in it and you drive it. 350 to 400 k's later, if you're being nice, you've got to recharge it again. And if you break down, you've got to get towed in. Same as gas, you had to. But you can put 2 gas tanks on a car. You can't put 2 lots of batteries. The car wouldn't even move. Too heavy. So what do? You got a hybrid, runs on part petrol, part electricity. Am I getting off what I said earlier? Yes, I answered adequately the questions of those people. And if they have a look, they'll get the idea. And I'm answering some of the garbage that's coming out from the political parties. You see, if you want to have a change in this country, forget what the independents say, what the political parties say. If you fill out a letter, Wayne Kenneth of the Family Glue, attended at your polling booth at this time, this date, and put the address there if you want. It doesn't matter. When there, I did not come across one lawful candidate because none of them are lawful. If they're not selected according to Chapter 1 of the Constitution, which includes the letters patent for the office of Governor and the instructions and advice to the office of Governor, which are letters patents, and the state constitution, which are letters patents, then they're not lawful. So when you put there were no lawful candidates, there's only one question of law. Where were they? Why not? Why didn't you have lawful candidates? Now, you can say it's simplistic, it's simple. Yes, it took a little bit of figuring, but I went totally simple because if you attended there, you've complied with the law. You went there to vote. But you couldn't vote because half the papers weren't there. None of them were there. But if you had a letter and you handed them, you've just wiped out their rubbish, their lies, their fraud, because that's what it was, and you've told them, answer the question, where were the lawful candidates? You didn't have any. The lawful question is, why not? Why didn't you have them? Doesn't matter all your excuses, smiling like an idiot, like Roger Cook and all those who think, we sucked them in. You didn't suck in anything. You are not a lawful parliament. You are not. And now you're going to use that and say, we're going to have a federal election. No, you're not. You're not having a state election, nor are you having a federal one. You've got a placebo one. Nothing. Absolutely zero. When are you people going to wake up? Attend at the polling booth, put it on a little letter. You got no lawful candidates. Why not? I don't care about what Clive Palmer or anyone else says. I'm not insulting you. Your method to get a correction can only be done one way. There's no lawful candidates. They want you to vote for, 6, 7, 8 at a time in all different numbers, below the line, above the line, for the political parties. This is the garbage they've been coming out with. Wake up. You can, with that letter, challenge their jurisdiction. Is it lawful? Absolutely 100%. Because page 795 of the Constitution, the fourth paragraph says, if you exercise authority throughout the Commonwealth, you have to say where it comes from. Where can any of these candidates that belong to political parties show you in the Constitution where the authority comes from? It doesn't. There's none. Their authority has to be from a pool set up by the governors. You can vote for one person once. No preferential voting. It explains that in Chapter 1 of the Constitution, in the annotated version. They debated all of that, whether you should have it or not, and they said no. What did Billy Hughes do in 1907? Put it in. Conscription? Put it in. Can you be conscripted to go into the Army, Navy, Air Force, or anything else? No. No, you can't. You need a referendum to approve it. Why? Because it's not in the Constitution. Not all enactments of the Parliament are valid, only those passed pursuant to, in accordance with, and under the authority granted by the Constitution. And those laws only are binding on the courts, judges, and the people of every state. All other laws are void. Where in the Constitution did it grant you the authority? It didn't. Could you do it with Act of Parliament? No. Is that good governance? No. Can you sign up to fight a country outside of ours? No, you can't. Did we give you permission? No. Does it say that in the Constitution? No. So, are you breaking the law? You filthy, dirty traitors and liars and frauds. Am I wrong? If I am, show me. I'll correct it. If I'm wrong, I'll come back on here and say, sorry, I shouldn't have called you lying, thieving, mongrel dog traitors. Sorry, dogs. But I did, because that's all you are. And to send our people over there, no, Albanese, you're a slimy little communist according to all the things. You have always been a communist or a socialist or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're against this country, and no, you have no authority. No one from this country wants to go and fight in Ukraine. Nobody. Peacekeeping, that's a nonsense. Look at it happening in Afghanistan. Peacekeeping, my foot. They become cannon fodder for any idiot that's playing around there. What did it say? Crown Carol. Yep, sample of letter to be hand into the polling booth tomorrow for the state election. This letter can be used for the federal election. Yes, it can, as well as the states, because all you're doing is you want a lawful answer to a lawful question. Where are the lawful candidates? You haven't got any. And you're not going to have any with the system you got. Not put there by political parties. That's blatant treason. And 98% are treasonous sellouts. I have zero confidence in their ability to do anything that benefits Australia at all. TJ Jeffries, yeah, I agree, but you still got to go there and present yourself to vote and hand them a letter saying, answer the question, where are the lawful candidates? Till then, there's no donkey vote, there's no nothing. You're not refusing to vote. You're saying you went there to vote, and you did. But there's no lawful candidates, so why would you? Why would you? So I'll leave you with that question hanging in your mind. With the upcoming federal election, whenever, they have to produce lawful candidates. They haven't got any. None. Albanese, the CEO of the corporation, him and his work colleagues and security force can go in on the front line. Yeah, that's a good idea. All the politicians, put all them there. See how they fare. They want to pick a fight with Russia. They've got to be stupid. If they keep sucking up to China and giving China everything they want, you have to be doubly stupid. You can't think that they don't want this country. You've got to be serious. Come on. Wake up. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going all day. I've answered the 2 questions put to me. If you want any further information, I've got a phone. You've rung me once, ring me again, and I'll go through it with you again. The guy that wants to know about where the people come from for the election doesn't come from us. We choose one of them, but the actual pool of people comes from the letters patent for the office of governor and advice and instructions to the governor. It says so in chapter 1. Go look it up. All your state constitutions are there. How did you remove them all and change them contrary to 106? You did it in treason and fraud. And there's another issue involving Muslims in this country, was from a picnic organised from Broken Hill. Go look at the history, you'll find out, but they weren't the Muslims that are here today. The Muslims that are here today, I believe, until there's any evidence to the contrary, are here for a better life. If they interfere with our way of life, follow our customs and beliefs, assimilate into our society, or get out. That's simple. Try that, Albanese. That's not a hate speech. There's no hate in me towards any person. I don't hate anybody. Not even the people that ridicule me and everything else. I don't hate them. I just get a kick out of being able to match their intellectual ability to express the correct law in this country. They don't have it. So you have a lovely day, and I'll just laugh with you. Thank you very much for your time.